How you living?
Good. I just went to California this past weekend and visited a guy I served with. He's
Yeah.
actually he's my old platoon commander
Oh
in
yeah,
Company
nice,
XO.
nice, nice, nice.
So I was out there hanging out with him for 2 days.
Yeah,
Him and his family. It was a really good time.
yeah. That's what's up. Well, I know you. I know what you didn't have while you was out there.
Was it?
You ain't had no Skittles.
Oh yeah, I saw that. They just banned they
Yeah,
banned Skittles. Well,
yeah.
we've talked about food before,
Hmm.
and just how if you anywhere else in the world, you can have the same stuff that we have here, but they don't have the same ingredients because they
Right,
banned
right.
a bunch of the ingredients out there
Hmm.
just because they know it causes cancer, they know it makes people sick.
Right,
Um, so I don't know, why people are all of a sudden surprised that, eventually someone's like, hey, let's get rid of the. I mean, I enjoy Skittles as much as anybody else years ago. I mean, I haven't had them in a while, but
right,
if they are making people sick, then yeah, or let's just change the damn formula. How about could we do
right,
that?
right. Well, you know that's it's like cost versus causation or whatever. It's like okay, is this really worth the cost changing all the formulas? Because at the end of the day, people are still going want Skittles. Here's the thing. You know what I thought about? If they
Huh.
ban outlaw Skittles, I was thinking about this. So that means you're gonna have actual Skittle dealers. So you're gonna have people that are I think like I want you to picture that like if Skittles are banned and people are gonna want them. So you gonna have people rolling up there talking about, hey dog, I got that red pack, I got that blue
Bro,
pack. What's good? You know what I'm saying? Like,
bro, don't even tempt me because I'll go to Costco right now. All right,
hey
and I,
man,
and I'll
what?
drop a hot G on some Skittles and we'll head to California this weekend. All right.
You know what I'm saying? And I was thinking about this. I say now on the flip side, can you imagine going to jail for selling Skittles? Like, can you imagine getting reprimanded and sitting in the county? You sitting in county lockup, and all of a sudden you standing next to Mad Dog and Killer One and Murder Man or whatever, and he's sitting there looking at you, and they talking about, hey, so what you in for? And you turn around and you say, man, I got caught with I got caught with them Skittles, bro. I had 10 kilos, 10 kilos of the blue pack. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Do you remember when they what they do? Chris Christie tried to like outlaw like large drinks in New York, like large
Mm,
sodas and stuff in New York. And I think people are gonna try to compare it, but I think we've known for a long time that foods are making us sick.
right.
We talk about the hormones and the chemicals that they put in them. And I think it was you that sent me or maybe I sent it to you, or maybe I just read it and thought I sent it to people. But
Yeah.
there was an article talking about some of these fast food restaurants. I think they were talking about like the Chick-fil-A, their chicken
Mm.
sandwich, and how many outside chemicals it has in the chicken.
Oh, wow.
This is just the Chick-fil-A. I'll have to go pull it up again. But it got to the point where they used to list what was in there on the website. Now this is what the article said, and then they
Right.
said after so many people started viewing it and asking about it, they took it down off the website. So I got no way to confirm that,
Mm.
unless somebody has ever worked for Chick-fil-A and they could,
Yeah.
let us know. But
You know what? I was always curious about that. I always felt like Chick-fil-A chicken tasted funny. Like I was, maybe it's because I was so used to eating fake chicken from everywhere else that for whatever reason, I didn't like Chick-fil-A for a really long time. Like I still don't really eat Chick-fil-A like that. But I mean, some people say you got so used to eating fake chicken that when you had real chicken, it was kind of weird. But then
yeah,
again, I don't know. Uh, it's one of them
one of those
things. You
one,
know what I mean?
one of those conundrums that we have. But I mean,
Yeah.
look, it just goes to show you. We always talk about this all the time. Like in the U.S., like we're behind on actually like having good food for everybody to eat. So once again, it's a problem we created ourselves.
Right. Right.
And now, half the world is about to be at war probably in the next two
Yeah.
months, and like
Right.
now worry about Skittles. Here we go.
No,
Like
right, right.
first,
So I was laughing about that because I was like, man, this is not the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life, right? So California has like the highest homeless rate. They got immigration like a crazy, like it's going wild over there. Economy over there is crazy. You're spending $2,500 for a 300 square foot, one bedroom apartment out that way. I mean, California is in dire straits, at least over in SoCal, you know what I mean? When you're talking about LA and all that.
mhm.
That's what you're worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know that much about California because the guy I was staying with was, I guess he makes decent money. He's in a pretty
Right.
decently sized place, so I would imagine that But when I asked him, because he had like a little 2 bedroom, 1.5 bath condo, I'd say probably I don't remember exactly how big it was. I'd say about 1,000 square foot, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And he was paying something astronomical for it. And I was like, oh my God! I was
Yeah.
like, dude, for that amount of money, you could buy a mansion down here in
Right.
in
Right.
the
Well, yeah.
South.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling somebody was I saw a post the other day that was talking about that. It was like I get denied from the bank who says I can't afford a $900 mortgage, but then so that means I have to go rent for $1,500 or something like that. And it was like, oh wow, it's crazy, man, how wacky the market has gotten. And they talking about it's supposed to be coming down a little bit, but interest rates are through the roof. And yeah, right.
No,
Yeah,
no, we're about to send more money to another to another war torn
another
country.
conflict.
We
Yeah,
already
I know.
we already send a lot of money to Israel every year to begin with. So this is just an excuse to send more. And if anything, it's a way to funnel money into Israel, then from Israel back into
Right,
Ukraine because they're starting to clamp down on how much we've spent so much
yeah,
in Ukraine, and people are like, hey, like we have a lot of our own problems right now,
right,
and Ukraine still has the whole rest of NATO and Europe that can support them. Like we shouldn't be flipping the entire bill for every war throughout the
right.
world.
Right.
You know,
You
and
know, and I tell people all the time, I say, it's interesting because when you look at the grand scheme of the global, if you look at the global theater, man, I was telling these kids today, I said, half the world is at war right now. Like, what are we talking about? Like, when you look at it, and it's like the fact that we are, like, our nation is crumbling. Our nation is falling apart at the seams, and we're jumping at every conflict that's popping up around the theater. And it's like, come on, people, let's get real about it. You know what I'm saying? But then on the flip side, I do understand that the reality is that Israel is our ally. Hold on one second, big dog.
sure, buddy.
Had to let the dog in, it's making all this noise. Anyway, but yeah, well, speaking of which, I mean that's a good. I forgot my train of thought, so it's all good. Speaking of which, I think it's a good segue, man. So, man, Israel, you see what's going on over there, huh?
Yeah, I mean that's it's not unheard of. It's crazy. They're talking about a giant intelligence failure that allowed all those rockets to be fired, and then they immediately responded. Um, within hours they already had. Now they're talking about a full scale land invasion.
Right,
I
right,
haven't kept up on it as much as I wanted to,
right.
but it sounds like they're probably going to do it. They're probably going to go in street by
Yeah,
street. And what does that mean for the rest of us? I mean, once again, like you have to let other countries handle their own business. And yeah,
right,
Israel is one of our biggest allies, but if this shit, I don't think Hamas can beat Israel on their own. Now, if the Arab nations form a coalition like they did back during the 6 Day War,
right. Six
then
Day War. Yeah,
obviously we're going to have to step back in. And all the rumors are you know, that Hamas is backed financially by Iran. They're backed financially by
right.
other, you know, bad actors throughout the Middle
Yeah,
East.
Saudi Arabia and a few others.
Saudi Arabia. You know,
Did you
they're
see? Did you see the video of the Iranian politicians in their little Democratic Congress? Not Democratic, but they're in their little Congress, and they're cheering like "Death to America," "Death to
hold on
Israel."
one
Yeah,
sec. Oh, thanks, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know if I can see the people that are watching from yours or my side. I know on my side, it doesn't seem like I don't see who's watching. I don't know if you see, but
You can up on my screen. It's like up in the top right corner. It has like a
right, right,
little
right.
little people thing. We've got
Okay.
Keisha's in here, outrageous Ron, and Jacques Madir.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can. Yeah, I can. My dear. My dear in the house. Yeah, yeah.
We'll
Okay,
see if
but
he
yeah,
stays.
yeah. But yeah, no, I was saying like, um, man, I lost my train of thought again. Anyway, yeah, it's been one of them days, clearly. But
You were talking about Oh, the Iranian parliament and
Oh
how
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
were.
yeah. Iranian Parliament. Yeah, yeah. The Iranian Parliament. They got a video apparently, and I don't know how recent it is, but they got a video of them in there. Like they're in Parliament, like the whole unanimously. They're in there. They gathered in the center of the thing, turns to the camera, and they're talking about they're death to America, death to Israel, death to America, death to Israel. And a lot of these politicians, these Hamas leaders, have come out recently talking about how we love death like you love life.
Yeah.
Like they've come out on some real, like they've made it very clear. They're talking about like we're gonna take our land back, even if it's at the expense of women and children, and it doesn't matter. And like they've been coming out real wild apparently lately.
I mean, they're just like any other main terrorist group.
Correct.
Just they're going to run their mouths. And as far as like the Iranian parliament, that I saw the video you're talking about. I don't know how old it is though, because I do
Right.
remember there was something similar several
Right.
times in like the last decade. So,
Yeah.
and they've already caught some of the news stations with fake videos. I
Right.
was watching one today. They use a scene out of a video game with helicopters getting shot down. They said that was
Right.
Hamas shooting down Israeli helicopters.
Yeah.
So can you really trust what we're seeing on the media? Not
Facts.
really. They're
Facts.
gonna push it. They're gonna push a narrative.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
CNN got caught a few years ago doing fake Al Qaeda videos and all kinds of stuff, trying to push propaganda against, the global war on terrorism and all that. So,
yeah, 100%, hundred
yeah.
percent.
So, yeah.
And at a certain point, you just got to realize that I've already had several of my friends were like, oh, I'm going to head to Israel. I'm like, well, I mean, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to head to Israel.
Right.
Once again, it's none of my business until it is my business, or if they offer a significant amount of money to go there, then I'll go. Just
Right.
like I wouldn't go to Ukraine for anything less than like 2K a day. Like
Right. Right.
why would I go get involved in yet another conflict that doesn't really have
Right.
anything to do with me? And then people are like, oh, well, terrorism is worldwide. It's like it is, but like how much of it is our fault? And I'm gonna devil's advocate it for a while. How long have we had our hands in the Middle East?
Right.
Not allowing them to solve their own problems.
Right.
I've seen some back and forth over the actual creation of Israel. All the way back to post World War One, because the UK or Britain had a lot of control of most of the
Right.
Middle East, if
Right.
not all of it, I believe. And so then they were trying to divvy it up between everybody,
Hmm.
and the Arabs didn't want that. They said no.
Right.
So then they created a small, and it was going to be Israel was going to be much smaller than it is today.
Right.
And they said no. And then once again, after World War II, something around the same hands, they were calling themselves
Yeah.
Palestinians by that time, and they
Right.
wanted to break away. They wanted to have their
Right.
own state, and they're like, okay.
Right.
But once again, they didn't like the deal that they set out. And this guy basically
Right.
just went through all the times in history. It's like 14 times he went through from
Yeah.
1917 until I believe it was 1919 up until
Right.
more recent, in the 90s and early 2000s. And every
Right.
time that they bring the Palestinian leaders or the rest of the Arab nations to the table, they just tell them no, because
Right.
it's to the point now where it seems like they really do want to just destroy
Right.
all the Israelites,
So what's interesting? Oh, go ahead.
Israelis. Sorry,
Yeah.
Israelis. I
No,
mean,
you're
not
good. Yeah.
Israelites. Got a little
No.
biblical on you.
So you're making a very interesting point because, like, you're right. They do just want to destroy Israel. Like that's an act. That is something that they have set out to do, and it's interesting because that actually goes back biblically. So if you actually go back even before 1970, you go back to the ancient times. You're talking about Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael. Like that's where that whole quarrel was born, which is interesting because I don't know if you're familiar. You remember the story of Abraham and his
Hmm.
son Isaac and his son Ishmael. I don't know if yeah. So Abraham, what's interesting is that Abraham was given a promise by God. Essentially according to the story, Abraham is given a promise by God of being the father of many nations, and he waited and waited for that promise child. Well, what happened
Hmm.
was, according to the story, what happens is he goes on to have, and this is historically documented in the documents outside of the Bible as well, where Abraham had another son outside of the normal covenant between him and Sarah, because Sarah was like, "Well, I'm old, you're old, so go get Hagar, my little hand, my little servant," and they had another child named Ishmael. Well,
Yeah.
Ishmael was not God's chosen child, but long story short, he ends up trying to kill Isaac and get exiled and all this kind of stuff. But he ends up becoming the father of the Arab nations. He actually becomes
Yeah.
the ancestor going into that. And it's interesting because it talks about that. It says Ishmael, because you've done this, Ishmael, he will be a generational enemy to Isaac for all, like almost all eternity. It'll be like a wild bucking bronco, never to be tamed by anyone until the end time, until the end of the world. And it's just
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
when you
Well,
see the parallels. You see it's been like that since the beginning of time.
so I was watching a guy give a speech on like the history of Islam and Judaism, and back when the Prophet Muhammad was supposedly going around building Islam up, which was like the
Right,
the end of the 500s into the early 600s, I believe.
right,
It's around that time frame, from the fifth to the somewhere between the fifth and the
right,
seventh centuries, where you see
right,
Islam and Muslim kind of boost up. And one of the things he says is like nobody realizes is that the first person that people weren't getting on board with Islam in the beginning. So he actually went to the Jews and he tried to basically he wanted to get validation for his religion to build it,
yep,
and the Jews were like,
yep,
no, no,
nah,
because you know how they feel.
right,
One God, our God, nobody else's God matters. And so he basically, from then on out, it was them against
destroy them, yeah,
anybody. If you weren't with me, then you were against me. Now whatever that means, whether you're Jewish or Christian or one of
right,
any other religion that doesn't agree with Islam. So
right,
they're all interconnected. And the thing is when he was building that religion, he was saying that he took a lot from the Torah, from the Jewish
right, yeah,
scriptures, and that's probably where he got the idea that Ishmael, because he was not, their
right,
God's chosen son.
yeah,
What a
son of
great
Israel, right,
what a great thing to sit there and be like, okay, well, we were supposed to, but then we got cast out, and you
right,
construct this whole line. Or you could say the early Christians or the earlier Hebrews did the same thing when Islam popped up. They're like, look, this is what happened. This is why we're enemies. So I mean, I think it can go
right.
both ways.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting when you look at, and like you said, you brought up a really good point about how, Muhammad actually went to the Jews and the followers of Christ of the time, and tried to get validated and get, brought into the fold and was rejected and then turned into. And if you notice, like the Quran, like the first half of it is all like peace. And there's actually letters where he was saying support, these other religions and protect them and things. And then all of a sudden, in the second half, it flips and it becomes very, verse of the sword, Surah 28, where it's the infidels, must die. And if you're not with my, and it turns very violent from there. And that's when you get that Sunni and Shiite split where, you have the peace, Islam of peace, and then you have the apocalyptic Islam, where a lot of the terrorism is born out of and things. And it's just interesting when you see how much interactions can impact people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How those little interactions can literally shift the mind of one person, and then it turns into this, perpetual enemy. You know what I mean? Um, it's pretty wild, man. I don't know if you. So, when was your last deployment, bro? When was the last deployment
Like
outside
in
of
the military, 2011. I went to
11? Okay,
Afghanistan.
so you came back right when I left because I left in 12,
Yeah,
or were
I
you
came.
still
I
out there?
No, I was there from January to October of 11. Came home in October, and then I got stationed down in New Orleans. So,
Okay,
um,
yeah. So yeah.
I had like a
So
two
because
week
we connected
transition.
right when you had just gotten back when we connected.
Uh
Dang, that's okay. That's wild. Because I left.
huh.
That's wild. Yeah. And then I left in 12. I left in 2012.
hmm
Um, so that's crazy, man. It feels like shit. Like we were in there for a minute, man. That's crazy that you had just got back and I left almost what 8 months later. That's wild.
Probably by the time did you come back to New Orleans, or was that it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I came back to
Okay,
New Orleans in
so I
13.
probably yeah, and I left and then I got out in 13. I got out in October of 13.
Yeah.
So we just had a little broken service together. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's funny. The other day, I was thinking about them times on the range, man. I was just like, boy, we had some wild times out there, boy.
I can't believe one of them kids didn't shoot me, man. First of all, they couldn't shoot, so I really
At
wasn't
all.
worried about it. I'd walk that line and talk my shit because I felt very, very safe in front of most of those weapons. It didn't matter what I did to help them. Felt your goddamn data book. Fill out
yeah,
your damn data book. I couldn't. How many times did I have to say fill out your data book? And then I had
yeah,
officers that didn't fill out the data book and they'd unk, and I'm like, sorry. And
yeah,
I'm getting called into
yeah,
the colonel's office. He's like, why did
yeah.
you unk a major? I'm like, I didn't unk a major. She unked
He umped
herself.
himself. Yeah. Hey,
Like,
do you remember? Do you remember? I think we were doing. Oh man, I don't know if you. I think you were there. Were you there that day when we had him on line? We had him on the line, and we were doing the movement, firing movement, and your boy caught a shell that went down his flak jacket, and he started freaking out.
oh yeah, we were doing the table 3 and 4, and at
Yeah,
the end they do everybody puts it on 3 round burst.
yeah.
Yes,
And he
yeah, I
freaked
remember.
out, and we had to tackle him and take him down and all that. Yeah,
I mean, he forgot he had a live weapon in his hand.
yeah. That's that's crazy, man. You know what's crazy? You know I never got my range hat, bro.
You never got your range hat?
Nope.
My range hat's sitting right over there, man. You can't have mine.
I never, cause you know, since we're free now, you know, I was never officially like a
Oh,
coach.
you want a licensed coach?
No, I was not.
I guess there's a statute of limitations on this. So you never went to school. You weren't an 0933. Whatever.
Hey, so that was one of those secrets. They told me not to say anything. They were like, cause they
Honest,
sent me.
I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, why didn't they just send you to school, or did they send you to school and you unked school?
No, they didn't send me to school. Check this out.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you what's crazy, bro. I'm gonna tell you how crazy it was.
All right.
So so I shot when I went down to the range as just going to get qual because I shot so well. They were like, "Yo, you ever thought about coaching?" And I was like, "Well, nah, I never thought about it." And they arranged it to where they sent me back, but they sent me as a like a intern, unofficial coach, I guess. Yeah, bro. Hey, and what's even crazier? Wait, here's what's even crazier. So I asked to go to school. I asked to go to pistol qual, and I asked to go to range school,
Mm-hmm.
and they denied my school. Like they denied pistol 3 times, and then they denied my pistol like 3 times, and then the range school they were like, well, you can just get on the job training basically, like and then and that whole time, I think we did what 2 ranges together, something like that. I don't remember, but either way,
I did like 40 while I was there, so I'm not really
yeah,
sure.
yeah, we did. Like I said, we did a few together. That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I never actually, they never sent me to school, bro. Like I learned being out there with y'all, and I just was like, I'm gonna just do what everybody else is doing, so that I don't mess that up. Nah, hey, I know that's
I never
crazy.
I never do. So I mean, good job. I mean, maybe you should have
Yeah,
been an actor.
yeah, bro. Nah, I just copied you. I said, all right, so all right, that book is running. Okay, okay. Bro,
Yeah.
I kid you not, bro. I never went to school. They just sent me out there. But you know what though, bro? So you came to Marfo Res, after deployment, you was out there doing your thing, and then you got to Marfo Res. So Marfo Res was my home, because that was my first duty station for real.
Yeah.
And they were wild, bro. They out of the little time you spent there, like they were a trip.
It was interesting.
Yeah,
It was interesting to say the least. But I mean, I felt like I stayed out of enough trouble while I was there.
yeah,
Like I think I did a decent job of not wearing out my welcome. Like I felt like people would have taken me back
yeah,
if I went back, but I would never go back. In fact, that's probably why I got out. I was so sick of being there. And then
yeah,
they told me they were changing it. It used to be 2 years on station, and then they changed it to 4 years on station. I was like, I ain't doing 2 more years. I'm getting out.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah. No,
because
I
I told
was,
I told them send me back to the fleet.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because it was definitely different. It's definitely different. You know, I know they like.
100%.
I'll tell you what was tripped out. I remember. So as a combat photographer, right? So we were 43, 41s. The way we deployed is we would just get sent out and then attached to the different units. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so we would basically deploy individually, and then they would drop us in wherever they want us to be. And so, do you know they sent? So I went out there, and do you know that I got there? They sent me 4 months early, so I had a guy already there. They sent me 4 months early, and then he was like, they were like, "Oh, welcome." Then he pulled me aside and was like, "Bro, what are you doing here?" Like he had only been there like 3 months or something.
Yeah.
So they sent me to replace him. I was his replacement. So when his time was up, I was gonna go replace him. They sent me
Hmm.
4 months early, and then after they sent me 4 months early, they sent him back and had me finish his time. They handed me new orders and said you're gonna be here for a year as opposed to as opposed to the 6 months. They said you're gonna be here for a year or 10 months. And then when I got to my 10 months, they handed me new orders and said, "Oh, well, your replacement isn't coming for another 6 months or whatever." I'm like, bro, what? Oh yeah, bro. I got extended like 3 times, bro, and it was so bad. I went through 3 staff and COs while I was out there.
And none of them were like, "Hey, man, you've been here for a while, huh?" They're just like,
No,
"They're
do you know the
man."
only reason I even came home for real? I'm gonna be honest with you. Because they had me at one point, I was floating with no orders. Like I was off, I had finished my time, and they didn't
Mhm.
have a new order for me. So I was just out there just
You're just like hanging out where on like Camp Leatherneck or Dwyer or something, like just
no. So they sent me, I was over in they sent me over in Bahrain.
okay.
Yeah, so I
Damn.
was at the Navy base, so I was chilling, so I was cool.
Okay. So I mean,
But I
look,
was
at
I
least
was just I was just floating. I was just like I'm just out here. And what's crazy is next thing I know, my mason who I was with, he had left and went back to he went to the Pentagon, right?
okay.
So he goes to the Pentagon. He calls out. So I was in Bahrain at the time, and he calls and he goes, I pick up the phone. He's like, Reese, why are you still there? I'm like, Master, I don't know. I'm just here. And he was like, all right. He had to like, I guess, make some calls or something like, yo, you do know you have a Marine who has been bouncing around the theater for 14 months. Right? Just bouncing from country to country, just arbitrarily and now he's in, I'm like, yeah, it was crazy, bro. And then what was even worse was then they were like, all right, well, we don't really know what to do with you because your command don't know what we're supposed to do. You technically belong to CENTCOM right now. They don't even know what you're supposed to do. So here's what we're gonna do. They sent me on R&R from there and said just go wherever, wherever. And I'm like, okay, and I ended up getting some civilian gear and stuff like that. And I went to Australia. No, I went to Australia because they were like, well, while we figure this out, you might as well. I mean, you don't need to be
Well,
here anymore.
yeah, go take a
So
break.
so they sent me to Australia. So I went to Australia, and I was like, all right, and yeah, and then finally when I came back, they were like, well, we finally got you a flight home. I was It was crazy, bro. I got back and I was getting out in like 6 months. Like it like I got back and my whole I mean I spent 4 years and I spent a year and a half almost just bouncing around the doggone desert.
Yeah. So they basically just forgot about you is what
They
happened.
did. They
You
did.
know.
And what made it worse, and the last part, what made it worse when I finally got back to Marfor, do you know that when I got back, everybody was looking like, Reese, is that you? I was like, what? They had a rumor that went out, bro, that I was KIA, bro. I no,
It
they put
happens.
my stuff was in my barracks room. Dog, they put my stuff in Lost and Found. And like my uniforms, bro, it was bro, my uniforms, everything. They done sold my DVDs. I had a whole DVD collection. My buddy sold my DVDs, my keyboard. I came back and I found my box in Lost and Found with like two core forms, a belt, and a doggone Delta shirt. And I was like, "Are y'all serious right now?"
Hey,
No,
man. I
it
mean,
was,
that's the way it goes.
bro, it was
That's
crazy, bro.
after that
Everybody
after
thought they seen a ghost.
that hundred, that $50 billion defense budget goes, they just lose. They literally just lose people in the system.
Pretty
Which can be
much.
another reason why I don't want to spend. We already spend enough money on dumb shit here. Like I don't want to send money to other places when there's plenty of problems that we can fix here.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know.
That's
Um,
nothing but the truth, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm telling you, man, just wait. In the next few days, some kind of bill's going to come out, some resolution. They're going to want to send, $50 billion to Israel, even though
Right,
they don't need our money, man. Like
right,
we just put a carrier out there, and the new carriers
right,
that we have are enough to end entire countries, and we have 18
right,
of them.
right, right.
We have
And
18,
they
18
were
of them.
saying this one they sent, the one they sent over there is the biggest one of all of them or something like that.
It's
And
like
they
the
said
biggest.
it's just